Welcome to OCR News Weekly. This week, Spartan Race kicks off the U.S. Championship Series and makes volunteer policy changes. Dick's Sporting Goods enters the OCR apparel game. And finally, Muckfest MS announces new national sponsor. Today is Thursday, April 20th, 2017. I'm Margaret Schlachter, and this is OCR News Weekly, brought to you by Mud Run Guide. Our top story this week comes from Spartan Race. This weekend, Spartan Race kicks off their U.S. Championship Series outside of Seattle, Washington. The U.S. Championship Series is part of the road to the Reebok Spartan Race World Championships in Lake Tahoe, California this fall. This year, in addition to being filmed for NBC Sports, Spartan Race will be hosting live coverage of the event on their Facebook, YouTube, and website, Spartan.com, during the race on Saturday. Top athletes in the racing world will be racing for glory this weekend, as many, at least in the Spartan circuit, will be kicking off their competitive season outside of Seattle. All eyes will be on Hobie Call, who recently officially joined the Spartan Race Pro team and has proclaimed in a recent interview he did with Mud Run Guide that he intends to win all of the U.S. Championship races this year. Call is the current reigning 2016 Spartan Race World Champion. So we'll see how he does this weekend, stacking up against new and familiar faces. Over on the women's side, it's really going to be a toss-up this weekend. We'll see, as many new athletes have joined the pro team this year, as well as a strong women's field returning. So anything could happen on race day with the women's side. Looking as well, Spartan Race also made news this week when they announced a shift in volunteer policy. The announcement came from Spartan Race staff on social media this week and caught fire among the largest community groups online. The announcement was a shift in policy for volunteers. Historically, volunteers have signed up for a shift and in return received a free race entry to be used in all heats. Over time, the policies have shifted as the company has grown. The newest policy states that volunteers wanting to use their free race that they receive for volunteering will be limited to afternoon heats if used at a later date. For those wanting an earlier time, they can pay a small upgrade fee. This was the statement that Spartan Race put out. The new policy is a result of a combination of factors, including the sport's growth and high demand for morning races, people selling their codes, and racers registering for morning heats and not showing up. So we needed to adapt in order to accommodate as many racers that would like to compete as possible. Volunteers are a critical part of Spartan's success, and we are thankful for all their hard work. Our next story this week comes from Dick's Sporting Goods, the large chain outdoor retailer, sporting retailer. Dick's Sporting Goods is getting into the obstacle racing game with a new compression brand exclusively for Dick's Sporting Goods called Second Skin. Second Skin is designed for high-intensity athletes, including obstacle course racers. The brand will be exclusively available at online and in-store at Dick's Sporting Goods. Additionally, Hunter McIntyre and Corinna Coffin are just a few of the athletes that have signed on with Second Skin to promote their new line of gear. From the press release we received about this announcement, we saw an opportunity to better serve our customers by designing and building products for a specific type of athlete who participates in sports with unique demands like obstacle course racing and functional fitness, and puts incredible pressure on his or her body to perform at its peak, said Ryan Eckel, Vice President of Brand at Dick's Sporting Goods. We created Second Skin to provide these athletes with gear constructed to support them every step of the way. We'll see how the new Second Skin products are used in the field as more and more racers are able to get their hands on them. Our next story comes from Tough Mudder. Tough Mudder announced yesterday some new additions and changes for the 2017 World's Toughest Mudder. The latest announcement includes an addition of a 4-person relay option and extended pursing for teams. Wesley Kerr wrote up a detailed description of the new announcement and what to expect for the 2017 World's Toughest Mudder, which you can find on mudrunguide.com and read all the details as well as a breakdown of how you need to get into each of the different qualifications this year and classifications for World's Toughest Mudder. Our last story this week comes from Muckfest MS. Muckfest MS announced a new national sponsor for 2017 with AbbVie signing on to the National Mud Run Series. AbbVie is a global research-based biopharmaceutical company formed in 2013 following separation from Abbott Laboratories. The company's mission is to use its expertise, dedicated people, and unique approach to innovation to develop and market advanced therapies that address some of the world's most complex and serious diseases. The new sponsor aligns well with Muckfest MS as their goal is to strive to find a cure for multiple sclerosis and work directly with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, with all proceeds from the Mud Run series going towards multiple sclerosis research. Next, we move on to race results from this past weekend. The popular European series Toughest headed to Amsterdam for the first time over the weekend, with the Albans, a familiar name in obstacle racing, sweeping the top spots on the podium. Here is your podium from Toughest. In first place in the men's division is John Albin. Second place is Linus Huntengard. Third place is Ross Brackley. Over on the women's side, Henrietta Albin, wife of John Albin, won the race. Karen Carlson came in second, and Anna Svensson came in third. Moving back over to the United States, Warrior Dash headed to Georgia over the weekend with Brantley Moore winning in the men's division, Ruby Peon coming in second, Liam Burke third. Over on the women's side, Casey Northup won the women's race with Ashley Carpenter second and Tara Pipia coming in third. Finally, Rugged Maniac was in Arizona over the weekend, and they had David Robert coming in first, Ethan Westenhofer in second, and Brian Owen in third. Our top female at Rugged Maniac was Kasharoon King, second place was Michelle Nansta, and third place was Andrea Owen. Looking ahead to this weekend's races, this weekend, as we said at the top of the podcast, Spartan Race heads to Washington State for the first U.S. Championship Series race. Rugged Maniac is in Florida. Warrior Dash heads to Tennessee. City Challenge Obstacle Race heads to New Jersey. And Timber Challenge is in Kansas. Looking outside the U.S., in the U.K. we have Puka races heading to Beds and Warrior Adrenaline Race in Woodhall Park. Ireland hosts Run Mucker Run, and finally, Nordic Race heads to Denmark, to name just a few of the events this weekend around the world. For the full race listings this weekend, check out our race calendar on Mud Run Guide. Those are your headlines this week from around the obstacle racing world. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the show today and never miss the top stories from around the obstacle racing world and beyond. And if you like the show, please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast player is. OCR News Weekly is a production of Mud Run Guide. I'm Margaret Schlachter. Have a great week. Looking ahead to this weekend's races, this weekend, as we said at the top of the podcast, Spartan Race heads to Washington State for the first U.S. Championship Series race. Rugged Maniac is in Florida. Warrior Dash heads to Tennessee. City Challenge Obstacle Race heads to New Jersey. And Timber Challenge is in Kansas. Looking outside the U.S., in the U.K. we have Puka races heading to Beds and Warrior Adrenaline Race in Woodhall Park. Ireland hosts Run Mucker Run, and finally, Nordic Race heads to Denmark, to name just a few of the events this weekend around the world. For the full race listings this weekend, check out our race calendar on Mud Run Guide. Those are your headlines this week from around the obstacle racing world. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the show today and never miss the top stories from around the obstacle racing world and beyond. And if you like the show, please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast player is. OCR News Weekly is a production of Mud Run Guide. I'm Margaret Schlachter. Have a great week.